Chapter 1. The Vanishing Guest. The autumn sun dipped low over the rolling hills of Devon, casting a golden glow across Ashford Manor's ivy-clad walls. Hercule Poirot, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit and polished shoes, stepped from the chauffeured car, his mustache twitching as he surveyed the grand estate. The invitation to Lord Ashford's weekend gala had intrigued him, not for its promise of luxury, but for the cryptic note accompanying it. A puzzle awaits, Monsieur Poirot, one worthy of your little gray cells. Signed only with a flourish. It hinted at a mystery, and Poirot never resisted a challenge. Captain Arthur Hastings, his loyal friend, clambered out behind him, adjusting his tie. "I say, Poirot, this place is rather splendid, isn't it? Looks like something out of a novel." "Oui, mon ami," Poirot replied, his green eyes scanning the Manor's turrets. "But it is not the architecture that interests me. It is the mind behind the invitation. Why summon Poirot to such a gathering? There is, I suspect, a purpose most particular." The Manor's oak doors swung open, and Lord Reginald Ashford, a tall man with silver hair and a commanding presence, greeted them. "Monsieur Poirot, Captain Hastings, welcome. Your presence honors us." Poirot bowed slightly. "The honor is mine, Lord Ashford. Your invitation was most compelling." Ashford's smile flickered, a shadow passing over his face. "I hope you'll find the weekend diverting. We've a lively group assembled." He led them into a marble-floored foyer where a chandelier glittered like a constellation. Servants bustled, carrying trays of crystal flutes. Hastings whispered, "Lively group, eh? Sounds like we're in for some fun." Poirot's lips curled. Fun, Hastings? Or perhaps something more? Intriguing. The guests gathered in the drawing room, a cavernous space adorned with tapestries and a roaring fireplace. Poirot observed them with the precision of a watchmaker. There was Lady Eleanor Ashford, Lord Ashford's sister, her auburn hair pinned elegantly, though her eyes darted nervously. Beside her stood Mr. Victor Crane, a businessman with a sharp jaw and sharper gaze, sipping brandy with calculated restraint. Dr. Margaret Hensley, a historian with a penchant for rare manuscripts, clutched a notebook, her fingers stained with ink. The young Miss Clara Beaumont, an heiress with a radiant smile, chatted with Mr. Thomas Ridley, a reserved groundskeeper who seemed out of place among the finery. Others mingled local gentry, a playwright, a retired colonel, but one figure drew Poirot's attention, a man introduced only as Mr. Phantom. Clad in a black velvet jacket, Mr. Phantom was an enigma. His face, partially obscured by a neatly trimmed beard, revealed little. His voice carried a faint accent Eastern European, perhaps, and his eyes gleamed with mischief. When Poirot approached, he offered a cryptic smile. "Monsieur Poirot, the great detective. I've heard your mind is sharper than a guillotine." Poirot inclined his head. "And you, monsieur, are a man of mystery. Your name Phantom it is, perhaps, a jest?" "Perhaps," Mr. Phantom replied, raising his glass. "Or perhaps it suits me perfectly." Dinner was announced, and the guests filed into the dining hall, where a long mahogany table gleamed under candlelight. Poirot sat opposite Mr. Phantom, noting his every gesture. The meal progressed with laughter and clinking glasses, but Poirot sensed an undercurrent of tension. Lady Eleanor barely touched her food, and Crane's eyes flicked toward Mr. Phantom, repeatedly as dessert was served poached. Pears in wine sauce. Mr. Phantom rose, glass in hand. "A toast," he declared, his voice commanding silence. "To secrets, for every soul here harbors one, and to truths, which have a way of revealing themselves." The guests murmured, some amused, others uneasy. Poirot's mustache twitched. A bold statement, he thought. "What game do you play, monsieur?" Before anyone could respond, Mr. Phantom swayed, his glass slipping from his hand. It shattered on the floor, and he stumbled, clutching the table. Gasps filled the room as he straightened, his face pale but composed. "Forgive me," he said, his voice steady, a moment's indisposition. He turned, as if to step away, and then impossibly he was gone. The guests blinked, staring at the empty space where he'd stood. The curtains behind his chair fluttered, but the windows were closed. Hastings leapt up, checking the room's exits, but found no trace. "Good Lord, Poirot, he's vanished into thin air." Poirot remained seated, his fingers steepled. "Not into thin air, Hastings. No man vanishes without method. The little gray cells, they are already at work." Lord Ashford, visibly shaken, called for calm. He must have slipped out. A prank, surely. Poirot's eyes narrowed. A prank, perhaps, but one with purpose. He rose, addressing the room. Mesdames et messieurs remained seated. "I shall investigate." He approached the spot where Mr. Phantom had stood, noting the shattered glass and a faint scuff on the polished floor. Behind the curtains, he found a small table, and on it, a folded note. He opened it carefully, revealing elegant handwriting. "The treasure lies where shadows read. Seek the wisdom of the ages." Poirot's pulse quickened. "A riddle. The game begins." He returned to the guests, holding the note aloft. "This was left by our mysterious friend. It appears Mr. Phantom wishes to engage us in a puzzle. I, Hercule Poirot, accept the challenge." Lady Eleanor gasped. "Treasure? What nonsense is this?" Crane snorted. "A theatrical stunt unsettle. U.S. The man's probably hiding in the wine cellar." Dr. Hensley's eyes gleamed. "Treasure? Could it be the Ashford legacy? I've read of a lost fortune tied to this estate." Poirot silenced them with a raised hand. "Speculation is premature. I require facts. Lord Ashford, may I inspect Mr. Phantom's quarters?" Ashford nodded, still pale. "Of course, this way." The guests dispersed, murmuring, as Poirot and Hastings followed Ashford to a guest wing. Mr. Phantom's room was sparsely furnished, with a single suitcase and a few books. Poirot examined them, finding nothing unusual until he tapped the underside of a bedside table. A faint click revealed a hidden compartment containing a single sheet of paper. Another riddle. In the hall of knowledge, where silence reigns. "The first step awaits. The library," Poirot murmured. "The hall of knowledge. It is clear." Hastings frowned. "How do you know it's the library?" Poirot tapped his temple. "The little gray cells, Hastings. The first note spoke of shadows read and wisdom of the ages. Where else but a library, where books hold the wisdom of centuries?" They returned to the dining hall, where the guests were abuzz with theories. Poirot addressed them. "I shall retire to consider this matter. I suggest you all do the same. Tomorrow we shall see what secrets this manor holds." As he and Hastings ascended the grand staircase, Hastings muttered, "Poirot, this phantom chop's got everyone." Rattled. "What's his game?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "His game, mon ami, is to challenge Hercule Poirot. And that is a game he shall not win." In his room, Poirot sat at a small desk, the two riddles spread before him. He traced the words with a finger, his mind racing. The phantom's disappearance was no magic trick. It required planning, perhaps an accomplice. The riddles pointed to a treasure, real or metaphorical. But why involve Poirot? Was it a test, a diversion, or something more sinister? He recalled the guests' faces. Lady Eleanor's fear, Crane's calculation, Dr. Hensley's curiosity. Each held a piece of the puzzle, he was certain. The library would be his next step, but he suspected the phantom was watching, waiting. For his move dot, as moonlight streamed through the window, Poirot closed his notebook, satisfied with the evening's discoveries. The riddle was set. the players in place. Tomorrow, he would begin unraveling the mystery of the phantom and the morrow, treasure that beckoned. Chapter 2. The Library's Secret. The morning sun filtered through the heavy drapes of Ashford Manor, casting a soft glow over the breakfast room where the guests gathered. The air buzzed with unease, the previous night's vanishing act still, fresh in their minds. Hercule Poirot, pristine in a charcoal suit, sipped his tisane, his green eyes scanning the room. Captain Hastings, seated beside him, buttered a scone with unnecessary vigor, muttering about the phantom's audacity. "Really, Poirot," Hastings said, keeping his voice low, "the fellow's got the whole lot on edge. Disappearing like that dashed theatrical, if you ask me." Poirot's mustache twitched. "Theatrical, oui, but not without purpose, mon ami. The phantom wishes to unsettle, to distract. But Hercule Poirot is not so easily swayed. The riddles, they are the key." He patted his pocket, where the 2 notes from the previous night rested. The treasure lies where shadows read. Seek the wisdom of the ages, and in the hall of knowledge, where silence reigns, the first step awaits. The library was the obvious destination, and Poirot was eager to explore its secrets. Lord Ashford entered, his face drawn but composed. "Monsieur Poirot, have you made progress?" "The guests are restless, and I confess I am too." Poirot inclined his head. "Progress, Lord Ashford, is a matter of method. I shall visit your library this morning. It is, I believe, the hall of knowledge of which the riddle speaks." Ashford nodded, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of doubt. "Very well. The library is at your disposal. But be cautious, some of those volumes are centuries old." Poirot rose, gesturing for Hastings to follow. "Come, mon ami. Let us see what wisdom awaits." The library of Ashford Manor was a cavernous chamber, its walls lined with towering bookshelves that stretched to a vaulted ceiling. Dust motes danced in the sunlight streaming through tall, arched windows. The air carried the musty scent of aged leather and parchment. Poirot paused at the threshold, his senses alert, taking in the rows of books, the heavy oak tables, and a spiral staircase leading to a balcony that encircled the room. "Magnificent," Hastings murmured. "You could get lost in here." "Lost?" "Perhaps," Poirot replied, "but not Hercule Poirot. The phantom has left a trail, and we shall follow it." He moved methodically, examining the shelves. The first riddle's phrase, "where shadows read," suggested a specific location, perhaps a book or a hidden compartment. He ran his fingers along the spines, noting titles on history, heraldry, and botany, but nothing immediately stood out. Hastings, less patient, paced near a table stacked with manuscripts. "Any luck, Poirot?" he called. "This place is a maze." "Patience, Hastings," Poirot said, his voice calm but firm. "The little gray cells, they require time to work." As he spoke, his eyes caught a faint irregularity on a shelf near the fireplace. A single book, bound in faded green leather, protruded slightly. He pulled it gently, revealing a title: Chronicles of Ashford, A Legacy of Secrets. The binding creaked as he opened it, and a folded paper slipped out, landing at his feet. "Voila," Poirot said, retrieving it. The paper bore a coded message, written in a precise hand: 3175, the 9th of December 22, the 4th of August 19. Below, it was a single line: "The path lies behind the guardian of wisdom." Hastings peered over his shoulder. "Another riddle? This chap's fond of his games." "Not a game, Hastings," Poirot corrected. "A challenge. The numbers, they are a cipher, perhaps referencing pages or lines in this book. And the guardian of wisdom, we must find it." He flipped through Chronicles of Ashford, a dense history of the estate. The numbers didn't align with pages or chapters directly, but Poirot's mind churned. "A book code," he murmured. Each set of numbers page, line, word. Let us test it. Using the book, he decoded the numbers. Page 3, line 17, word. 5 was hidden. Page 12, line 9, word 22 was passage. Page 8, line 4, word 19 was behind. The message read, hidden passage behind. Poirot's eyes gleamed. The guardian of wisdom guards a hidden passage. But who or what is this guardian? He scanned the room, his gaze settling on a bust of Athena, goddess of wisdom, perched atop a pedestal near the balcony staircase. There, he said, pointing, the guardian. They approached the bust, and Poirot examined it closely. Its base was heavy, but a faint seam suggested a mechanism. He pressed gently, and with a soft click, a section of the bookshelf behind it slid inward, revealing a narrow, cobwebbed passage. Hastings gasped. Good heavens, Poirot, you've done it. Not yet, mon ami, Poirot said, peering into the darkness. This is but the first step. Before they could enter, a shadow flickered on the balcony above. Poirot's head snapped up, catching a glimpse of a cloaked figure slipping through a door. Hastings, he barked. After them. Hastings bolted up the spiral staircase. But by the time he reached the balcony, the figure was gone. A side door led to a corridor, but it was empty. Lost them, Hastings panted, returning. Slippery devil. Poirot's expression remained serene. No matter. They have confirmed what I suspected. The phantom, or an accomplice, watches us. They wish to know how far Poirot will go. He turned back to the passage, shining a small torch from his pocket. The tunnel was narrow, its walls damp and lined with ancient stone. At its end, a heavy wooden door, locked tight, blocked their path. Carved into it was another riddle. The key to wisdom is held by the past. Poirot frowned. A key. Literal. Or figurative? We must return to the manor and consider. As they emerged from the passage, the library was silent, but the air felt charged. The guests, gathered for luncheon, were abuzz with speculation. Lady Eleanor, pale and fidgeting, avoided Poirot's gaze. Victor Crane, the businessman, watched, him with thinly veiled suspicion. Dr. Hensley, the historian, approached, her eyes bright with curiosity. Monsieur Poirot, she said, I hear you've been in the library. Did you find anything unusual? Poirot smiled enigmatically. The library is a place of many secrets, Dr. Hensley, but rest assured, Hercule Poirot will uncover them all. She hesitated, as if weighing her words, then nodded and returned. To her seat, Hastings leaned in. She knows something, doesn't she? Perhaps, Poirot said, or perhaps she wishes to know more than she should. The luncheon passed uneventfully, but Poirot's mind was elsewhere, piecing together the clues. The phantom's disappearance, the riddles, the hidden passage, all pointed to a carefully orchestrated plan. But for what purpose? A treasure, as Dr. Hensley suggested, tied to the Ashford legacy? Or something more personal? As the guests dispersed, Poirot lingered, his fingers tracing the coated paper. The locked door in the passage required a key, and the riddle, the key to wisdom is held by the past, suggested a connection to the manor's history. He resolved to investigate the Ashford family records, perhaps in the company of Lady Eleanor, whose unease hinted at hidden knowledge. He rose, adjusting his tie. Hastings, we shall return to the library tonight when the manor sleeps. But first, I must observe our fellow guests. The phantom plays a clever game, but Poirot is cleverer still. The chapter closed with Poirot standing by a window, gazing at the estate's sprawling grounds. The hidden passage was a triumph, but the shadowy figure on the balcony lingered in his mind. The game was far from over, and he was determined to stay one step ahead. Chapter 3. The key in the portrait The afternoon at Ashford Manor was cloaked in a restless calm, the guests dispersing to the gardens or drawing rooms, their conversations laced with speculation about the phantom's disappearance. Hercule Poirot, however, was not one for idle chatter. He sat in a plush armchair in the Manor's morning room, his fingers steepled, his mind dissecting the riddles. The key to wisdom is held by the past, from the hidden passage's door, and the earlier, clues pointing to a treasure. The locked door in the library's secret passage was his next obstacle, and he suspected the answer lay not in the library, but in the Manor's history specifically. The Ashford family. Captain Hastings, ever eager, hovered nearby, flipping through a guidebook about Devon estates. Poirot, this place has seen everything: feuds, scandals, even a rumored lost fortune. Do you think the phantom's after that? Poirot's eyes gleamed. A fortune, Hastings? Perhaps, but the phantom's motives are not yet clear. The riddles, they are deliberate, designed to lead us somewhere. The key, it is tied to the past, and I suspect Lady Eleanor knows more than she reveals. Lady Eleanor Ashford had been a shadow of unease since the phantom's vanishing act. Her nervous glances at dinner, her reluctance to engage Poirot, had noted it all. She was the last of the direct Ashford line, save for her brother, Lord Reginald, and her discomfort suggested a connection to the Manor's secrets. He resolved to speak with her, but first he needed to explore the Manor's historical artifacts. Hastings, come, Poirot said, rising. We shall examine the portrait gallery. The past, it speaks through such things. The gallery was a long, dimly lit corridor lined with oil paintings of Ashford ancestors, their stern faces gazing down from gilded frames. Poirot moved slowly, studying each portrait. The Ashfords were a proud lineage, their wealth built on trade and land, but whispers of a lost treasure, a cache of jewels or gold hidden during a 17th century feud, had surfaced in Dr. Hensley's comments at luncheon. Poirot paused before a portrait of Sir Edmund Ashford, Lady Eleanor's great-grandfather, a man with piercing eyes and a hand resting on a cane. The plaque read, Sir Edmund Ashford, 1789 to 1854. Notice, Hastings, Poirot said, pointing to the cane. The handle, it is shaped like an owl, a symbol of wisdom. And the riddle speaks of the key to wisdom. This is no coincidence. Hastings squinted. You think there's a key in the painting? Not in, mon ami, but perhaps on. Poirot stepped closer, his fingers brushing the frame's ornate edges. He pressed gently, testing for hidden mechanisms. A faint click sounded, and a small panel at the frame's base popped open, revealing a brass key nestled in a velvet lining. By Jove! Hastings exclaimed. You've done it again, Poirot. Poirot held the key aloft, its surface etched with a tiny owl. The key to the passage, I believe. But let us confirm before we celebrate. As they turned to leave, Lady Eleanor appeared at the gallery's entrance, her face pale, her hands clasped tightly. Monsieur Poirot, she said, her voice trembling. What are you doing here? Poirot bowed slightly, his expression serene. Merely admiring your family's history, Lady Eleanor. This portrait of Sir Edmund, it is most striking. Does it hold special meaning for you? Her eyes darted to the painting, then away. It's just a family relic. He was a stern man, they say. Why do you ask? Poirot's smile was disarming. Curiosity, madame. The past, it has a way of illuminating the present. She hesitated, then nodded curtly, and hurried away. Hastings raised an eyebrow. She's hiding something, isn't she? Without doubt, Poirot replied. But we shall not press her yet. The key, it calls us back to the library. They returned to the library under the guise of afternoon reading, ensuring no guests followed. The hidden passage behind the Athena bust was as they'd left it, the carved riddle on the wooden door glinting in the torchlight. The key to wisdom is held by the past. Poirot inserted the owl-etched key, and with a satisfying click, the door swung inward, revealing a small, stone-walled chamber. Inside, a heavy iron chest sat on a stone plinth, its surface rusted but intact. A padlock secured it, but the key didn't fit. On the wall above, another riddle was carved. The heart of the manor guards the prize, where water meets stone in moonlight's guise. Hastings groaned. Another riddle? This phantom's got a blasted obsession. Poirot chuckled softly. Obsession, perhaps, but method, certainly. The chest, it is not yet ours to open. This new riddle points elsewhere. Water and stone under moonlight. I suspect the manor's fountain, but we shall confirm. As they exited the passage, a faint thud echoed from the library's balcony. Poirot's head snapped up, but the shadows were empty. Someone watches Hastings, he whispered. We are not alone in this game. Back in the main house, the guests were preparing for tea, but the atmosphere was strained. Victor Crane, the businessman, cornered Poirot near the drawing room. Monsieur Poirot, this phantom nonsense is disrupting everything. Have you found him? Poirot's gaze was steady. Not yet, Monsieur Crane, but I have found other things. Tell me, what is your interest in this matter? Crane bristled. I'm a guest, nothing more. I deal in investments, not ghost stories. Yet you seem most attentive to the phantom's actions, Poirot said smoothly. Curious, non? Crane muttered something and stalked off. Poirot turned to Hastings. He is nervous, Hastings. Perhaps he seeks the treasure for himself. Tea was served in the conservatory, but the mood soured when Lady Eleanor, already pale, dropped her cup mid-sentence. It shattered, and she swayed, clutching the table. I can't bear this, she gasped, collapsing into a chair. Dr. Hensley rushed to her side, fanning her, while Lord Ashford called for a servant. Poirot knelt beside her, his voice gentle. Lady Eleanor, what troubles you? Speak, and perhaps I can help. Her eyes, wide with fear, met his. It's the manor, the stories, the treasure. It's cursed. I knew of it, but not this phantom. He's real, isn't he? Poirot patted her hand. Real, yes, but not a ghost. A man with motives. Trust in Poirot. She nodded weakly, and as the guests fussed over her, Poirot stepped aside, his mind racing. Lady Eleanor's fear confirmed her knowledge of the treasure, but her denial of the phantom's identity rang true. The chest, the new riddle, and the unseen watcher in the library, each piece, fit into a larger puzzle dot as evening fell. Poirot stood by the conservatory windows, gazing at the manor's fountain in the distance, its stone basin glinting under the rising moon. The riddle's mention of water meets stone pointed there, but he would wait for nightfall to investigate, when prying eyes were fewer. Hastings, he said, turning, tonight we visit the fountain. But we must be cautious. The phantom, he is clever, and he is near. The chapter closed with Poirot adjusting his cufflinks, the owl-etched key safe in his pocket. The locked chest was a step closer to the treasure, but the phantom's shadow loomed larger. Poirot's little gray cells hummed, ready for the next move in this intricate game. Chapter 4. The Phantom's Warning. The moon hung low over Ashford Manor, casting silver light across the manicured lawns as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings slipped out of the side entrance, their footsteps muffled on the gravel path. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and late-blooming roses. Poirot's mind was fixed on the latest riddle from the hidden chamber. The heart of the manor guards the prize, where water meets stone in moonlight's guise. The manor's fountain, a grand structure of carved granite in the center of the gardens, was their destination. Hastings adjusted his scarf, his breath visible in the cool night. I say, Poirot, sneaking about like this feels a bit cloak and dagger. Sure this fountain's the right spot? Poirot's eyes glinted. The riddle is clear, mon ami. Water meets stone. The fountain is the heart of the gardens, and the moonlight, it guides us. But we must be vigilant. The phantom, he watches. They approached the fountain, its basin shimmering under the moon's glow. Cherubs and vines adorned its tiers, and water trickled softly, the sound almost hypnotic. Poirot circled it, his torch sweeping over the stonework. There must be a mechanism, he murmured. A clue, hidden in plain sight. As he examined the base, a folded paper slipped under his door earlier. That morning flashed in his mind. It had been waiting when he awoke, its message chilling. Turn back, Poirot, or the shadows will claim you. No signature, only the same elegant script as the previous riddles. The phantom was growing bold, but Poirot was undeterred. Threats only sharpened his resolve. Found anything? Hastings whispered, glancing over his shoulder. The gardens were silent, but the darkness felt alive, as if eyes lingered just beyond the torchlight. Poirot's fingers traced a seam in the fountain's lowest tier. He pressed, and a faint click echoed. A small panel slid open, revealing a hollow space. Inside lay a leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed with age. Poirot opened it carefully, revealing entries dated over 2 centuries ago, written by a certain Sir Geoffrey Ashford. Mon Dieu, Poirot said softly, this is no ordinary journal. It speaks of a feud-rival family, the Crestwells, who claimed the Ashford treasure as their own. The treasure was hidden to protect it. Hastings leaned in, reading over his shoulder. A feud? That's motive, isn't it? Maybe the phantom's a Crestwell, stirring up old grudges. Perhaps, Poirot said, tucking the journal into his coat. But we need more than theories. This journal, it is a piece of the puzzle, but not the whole. As they turned to leave, a rustle came from the nearby shrubbery. Poirot's torch swung toward it, catching the glint of eyes before a figure bolted into the darkness. After him? Poirot barked, but Hastings was already sprinting down the chase, led through the garden's winding paths, the figure weaving between hedges with practiced ease. Hastings, fit but not fleet, lost ground as the shadow vanished into a copse of trees. He returned, panting. Slippery blighter. Couldn't see his face. Poirot nodded, unfazed. No matter, Hastings. The phantom or his ally confirms. We are on the right path, but we must return to the manor. The journal requires study. Back in Poirot's room, they pored over the journal by lamplight. Its pages detailed Sir Geoffrey's efforts to hide the treasure gold, jewels, and a priceless artifact during a bitter dispute with the Crestwells. One entry stood out. The clock tower stands sentinel over our secrets, its hands pointing to the truth. The clock tower, Poirot said, his voice alight with realization. The next clue. The riddle's heart of the matter may have been the fountain, but the journal points higher. Hastings yawned. Clock tower, eh? First thing tomorrow. Then, Poirot said, though his mind was already racing ahead. The phantom's warning suggested desperation, and the journal hinted at a deeper motive. Was the treasure the goal, or was it a means to settle an ancient score? The next morning, Poirot lingered at breakfast, observing the guests. Lady Eleanor, still shaken from her fainting spell, avoided his gaze. Victor Crane, the businessman, was curt, his eyes darting to the windows as if expecting trouble. Dr. Hensley, the historian, seemed overly curious, asking Poirot about his progress with a knowing smile. But it was Thomas Ridley, the groundskeeper, who caught his attention. The man hovered near the buffet, his rough hands trembling slightly as he poured coffee. Poirot approached him, his tone genial. Monsieur Ridley? You know these gardens well, non? Have you seen anything unusual in them at night? Ridley's cup rattled against its saucer. Unusual? No, sir. Just shadows and foxes, that's all. His eyes flicked away, too quickly. Poirot smiled. Of course. But if you recall anything, you will tell Poirot, yes? Ridley nodded and hurried off. Hastings, watching, whispered, "He's nervous as a cat." "Think he's the Phantom?" "Not the Phantom," Poirot said, "but perhaps a pawn. He knows something, and we shall find out what." As the morning progressed, Poirot requested a private word with Lord Ashford in his study. The Lord, looking. Haggard listened as Poirot shared the journal's discovery, omitting the clock tower clue. "This feud with the Crestwells," Poirot said. "It is known to you?" Ashford sighed. "An old tale, Monsieur Poirot. The Crestwells were our rivals centuries ago. They claimed our ancestors, stole their wealth. It's folklore now, but Eleanor, she's always feared it might resurface." "And this treasure?" Poirot pressed. "You believe it exists?" Ashford hesitated. "I don't know. Family stories mention it, but no proof. If it's real, it's well hidden." Poirot nodded, satisfied for now. The journal, the warning, and Ridley's nerves all pointed to a conspiracy rooted in the manor's past. The clock tower was the next step, but he would approach it cautiously. Aware that the Phantom's eyes were never far dot as he and Hastings left the study, Poirot glanced at the grand clock in the hall, its hands ticking steadily. "Tonight, Hastings," he said softly, "we climb to the tower. The Phantom may warn us to turn back, but Hercule Poirot does not retreat." The chapter closed with Poirot standing by the hall's window, the journal in his hands, its weight a reminder of the secrets it held. The Phantom's warning echoed in his mind, but it only fueled his determination. The clock tower awaited, and with it, the next piece of the riddle. Chapter 5. The Clock Tower Cipher. The evening sky over Ashford Manor was a tapestry of deep indigo, punctuated by the first stars, as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings made their way to the clock tower. The journal's clue. The clock tower stands sentinel over our secrets, its hands pointing to the truth, had set Poirot's little gray cells ablaze. The tower, a looming silhouette against the night, rose from the manor's west wing, its ancient stone weathered by centuries. Poirot's polished shoes crunched on the gravel path, his torch casting a narrow beam ahead. Hastings, bundled in a coat against the chill, glanced nervously at the shadows. "Poirot, this Phantom business is getting eerie. That warning note, shadows. We'll claim you don't think he's planning something, do you?" Poirot's mustache curved slightly. "The Phantom, he wishes to intimidate Hastings. But fear is a distraction, and Poirot does not distract easily. The clock tower, it holds the next piece of the puzzle." They reached the tower's base, where a heavy oak door, studded with iron, stood ajar. Poirot paused, his senses alert. "Curious," he murmured. "An open door invites, yet it also warns. We proceed with caution, mon ami." Inside, a spiral staircase wound upward, its stone steps worn smooth. The air was damp, smelling of rust and old wood. The faint tick of the clock mechanism echoed from above, a steady heartbeat in the gloom. Poirot led the way, his torch illuminating. Cobwebs and dust. At the top, they emerged into a circular chamber housing the clock's massive gears, their bronze surfaces glinting in the moonlight streaming through narrow windows. Poirot's eyes scanned the mechanism. "The hands pointing to the truth," he said, approaching the clock face. The hour hand rested at 3, the minute hand at 45. He studied the gears, noting a small panel etched with numbers and symbols arranged like a cipher wheel. "A puzzle, Hastings." "The hands, they are part of a code." Hastings peered at the panel. "Looks like gibberish to me. Numbers, letters, and what arrows?" "Patience," Poirot said, his fingers tracing the panel. He aligned the cipher wheel to match the clock's time 3:45, and a soft click sounded. A compartment slid open, revealing a folded parchment. Poirot unfolded it, revealing a map fragment, its edges frayed, depicting a portion of the manor's grounds with a hedge maze marked in ink. Below it, a note in the phantoms. Script: the maze guards the next step, but tread carefully, eyes are everywhere. Hastings whistled. A map! We're getting closer, Poirot. But this maze business sounds like another trap. Poirot tucked the fragment into his pocket. A trap, perhaps, but also a challenge. The phantom tests us, Hastings. He wishes to see if Poirot is worthy. As they turned to descend, a creak echoed from the staircase below. Poirot's torch swung downward, catching a fleeting shadow. Quickly, he hissed, but before they could move, a loud groan reverberated through the tower. The staircase shuddered, and a section of the railing gave way, forcing them to press against the wall. Good Lord! Hastings cried, gripping the stone. Someone's tampered with the ladder. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Not an accident, mon ami. The phantom, or his accomplice, seeks to delay us. He examined the broken railing, noting fresh scratches on the bolts. Sabotage, he said, but crude. We shall find another way. They navigated the damaged stairs with care, reaching the ground safely. Outside, the night was still, but Poirot's senses were sharp. Someone was here, he said, scanning the shadows. They knew we would come. Back in the manor, the guests were gathered in the drawing room, playing cards or sipping sherry. Poirot observed them closely. Lady Eleanor, recovered from her fainting spell, sat quietly, her eyes fixed on a book she wasn't reading. Victor Crane, the businessman, laughed too loudly at a joke, his gaze darting to Poirot. Dr. Hensley, the historian, was absent, likely in her room with her manuscripts. But it was the butler, Mr. Grayson, who caught Poirot's attention. The man moved stiffly, his hands fidgeting as he served drinks. Poirot approached him, his voice low. Monsieur Grayson, you are most diligent. Tell me, have you been near the clock tower this evening? Grayson's tray wobbled slightly. The clock tower, sir? No, I've been here all night. Why do you ask? Poirot smiled. Merely a question. The manor, it has many secrets, non? Grayson nodded curtly and hurried away. Hastings whispered, He's hiding something, Poirot? Did you see his hands shake? Oui, Poirot said. He is nervous, perhaps coerced. I suspect he spies. For someone, possibly the phantom. Later, in Poirot's room, they studied the map fragment. The hedge maze, located in the estate's northern gardens, was intricate, its paths twisting like a labyrinth. The note's warning, eyes are everywhere, suggested surveillance, perhaps another attempt to deter them. Poirot traced the maze's lines, his mind piecing together the clues. The journal's feud, the fountain's riddle, and now the maze. The treasure was close, but so was the phantom. Hastings, Poirot said, tomorrow we enter the maze. But first, I must learn more about our butler. He is a link, I am certain. Hastings nodded, though his expression was uneasy. This phantom's playing a dangerous game, Poirot. Tampering with stairs? What's next? Poirot's eyes gleamed. What is next, Hastings, is that Hercule Poirot will outwit him. The map, it is a step closer to the truth. And the truth, it always reveals itself. The chapter closed with Poirot at his desk, the map fragment spread before him, its lines a challenge he was ready to meet. The clock tower cipher had yielded. Its secret, but the phantom's sabotage, was a reminder of the stakes. The maze awaited, and with it, the next move in this intricate dance. Chapter 6. Shadows in the Maze. The morning sun cast long shadows across Ashford Manor's northern gardens, where the hedge maze loomed like a green fortress. Hercule Poirot, immaculate in his suit despite the dew-soaked grass, held the map fragment. From the clock tower, its inked lines tracing the maze's twisting paths. The phantom's note: "The maze guards the next step, but tread carefully, eyes are everywhere," echoed in his mind, a warning that sharpened his focus. Captain Hastings, at his side, gripped a walking stick, his eyes scanning the towering hedges. "Poirot," Hastings said, his voice low, "this maze looks like a trap waiting to spring. Are you sure about this?" Poirot's mustache twitched. "A trap, perhaps, mon ami, but also a puzzle. The phantom leads us here for a reason. The map, it is our guide, and Hercule Poirot does not falter." They entered the maze, its yew hedges rising 10 feet, their dense foliage blocking the sun. The air was cool, heavy with the scent of earth and leaves. Poirot consulted the map fragment, its partial sketch, showing a central clearing marked with. On X, he navigated with precision, turning left, then right, his steps measured. Hastings followed, muttering about getting lost as they rounded a corner. Voices drifted through the hedges, sharp, heated. Poirot raised a hand, signaling silence. He crept closer, peering through a gap in the foliage. Victor Crane, the businessman, stood arguing with Dr. Margaret Hensley, the historian, their words clipped but audible. "You're meddling in things you don't understand," Crane hissed. "The treasure's a myth, and you're stirring up trouble." Dr. Hensley's voice was cool. "A myth? I've seen the records, Victor. The Ashford fortune is real, and you're not the only one after it." Crane's face darkened, but he turned away, disappearing down a path. Dr. Hensley lingered, jotting something in her notebook before moving off. Poirot stepped back, his mind racing. "Interesting," he murmured. "They both seek the treasure, yet they do not trust each other." Hastings frowned. "Crane's up to something, isn't he? And Hensley, she's too curious for her own." "Good. Poirot said. "But we shall deal with them later. The center of the maze awaits." They pressed on, the map guiding them through dead ends and sharp turns. At last, they reached the clearing, a circular space with a stone. Statue at its heart, a robed figure holding a book, its base carved with an inscription: "Knowledge is the path to truth." Below it, another riddle was etched: "Where water weeps, the secret sleeps, guarded by stone in moonlight's keep." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "A fountain again, Hastings. The riddles, they circle back. But first, we search here." He examined the statue, his fingers probing its base. A faint seam yielded to pressure, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a folded cloth, and within it, a monogrammed handkerchief embroidered with the initials V.C. Poirot held it up, his expression thoughtful. "V.C. Hastings." Sighed. "Victor Crane. He was just here, arguing with Hensley." "Perhaps," Poirot said, pocketing the handkerchief. "Or perhaps it is meant to make us think so. The phantom, he is clever with misdirection." As they turned to leave, a rustle came from the hedges. A cloaked figure darted across the clearing's edge, vanishing into the maze. Hastings gave chase, but the figure was too swift, lost in the labyrinth's twists. He returned, frustrated. "Blasted maze. It's like chasing a ghost." "No ghost, Hastings," Poirot said. "A man with purpose." He dropped this handkerchief, intentionally or not. "It is a clue, but we must not leap to conclusions." They exited the maze, the map fragment and handkerchief, adding weight to Poirot's growing collection of evidence. Back at the manor, the guests were gathered for luncheon, their chatter subdued. Poirot observed them closely. Crane sat alone, his jaw tight, while Dr. Hensley conversed with Lord Ashford, her eyes flicking toward Poirot. Lady Eleanor, still pale, excused herself early, claiming a headache. Thomas Ridley, the groundskeeper, lingered near the door, his gaze uneasy. Poirot approached Ridley, his tone genial. "Monsieur Ridley, you know the maze well, I presume? Have you seen anyone enter it today?" Ridley's hands twitched. "The maze? No, sir. I was tending the roses this morning. Didn't see a soul." Poirot nodded, noting the man's discomfort. "Merci. If you recall anything, you'll tell Poirot, yes?" Ridley mumbled agreement and hurried off. Hastings whispered, "He's lying, isn't he? He's got to be involved." "Perhaps," Poirot said, "but we lack proof." "The handkerchief. It points to Crane, but it is too convenient. A phantom plays a deeper game." After luncheon, Poirot retreated to his room to study the new riddle, where water weeps, the secret sleeps, guarded by stone in Moonlight's keep. The fountain, referenced again, was becoming central to the mystery. The journal from the fountain, the map from the clock tower, and now the maze's clue, all pointed to a treasure hidden in layers of deception. The handkerchief with Crane's initials suggested involvement, but Poirot suspected a plant to divert suspicion. He summoned Hastings. "Tonight we return to the fountain, under moonlight. The riddle insists on it, and I believe we shall find more than water and stone." Hastings nodded, though his expression was wary. "This phantom's always one step ahead, Poirot." "What? If he's waiting for us?" "Then we shall meet him," Poirot said, his voice firm. "The maze has given us a piece of the puzzle, but the fountain holds the next. Hercule Poirot will not be outwitted." The chapter closed with Poirot standing by his window, the handkerchief in his hand, its monogram a silent accusation. The maze had yielded its secret, but the phantom's shadow was ever present. The fountain beckoned, and Poirot was ready to face whatever lay in wait. Chapter 7. The fountain's depths, the night was still, the moon casting a silver sheen over Ashford Manor's gardens as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings approached the fountain once more. The latest riddle from the maze, where water weeps, the secret sleeps, guarded by stone in Moonlight's keep, echoed in Poirot's mind, its words a beacon to the next piece of the phantom's puzzle. The fountain, already a source of clues with the journal they'd found, now promised deeper secrets. Poirot's torch swept over the stone cherubs, their carved faces serene under the moonlight. Hastings, clutching his walking stick, glanced nervously at the surrounding shadows. "Back to the fountain, eh, Poirot? I hope this time we don't end up chasing ghosts through the bush." Poirot's mustache twitched. "No ghosts, mon ami, only men with motives. The riddle is precise. Water weeps, suggests the fountains. Flow, can Moonlight's keep, confirms we are here at the right hour. Let us see what the stone guards." They circled the fountain, its water shimmering like liquid silver. Poirot's eyes traced the base, recalling the hidden panel from their last visit. He pressed along the stonework, searching for another mechanism. A faint groove caught his attention, and with a gentle push, a section of the basin clicked and slid inward, draining the water with a soft gurgle. As the basin emptied, a sealed metal box emerged, embedded in the fountain's foundation, its surface etched with a faint crest and owl, matching the key from the portrait gallery. "Voila," Poirot said, his voice low but triumphant. "The secret sleeps indeed." He knelt to examine the box, its lock intricate but unyielding to the owl-etched key. Before he could ponder further, footsteps crunched on the gravel behind them. Poirot spun, his torch catching Victor Crane, the businessman. His face flushed with anger. "What are you doing?" Crane demanded, his voice sharp. "That's private property." Poirot rose, his expression serene. "Monsieur Crane, you are most interested in my investigations. Tell me, why are you here in the gardens at this hour?" Crane's eyes flicked. To the box, then back to Poirot. "I couldn't sleep. Saw your light from my window? You've no right to meddle in Ashford affairs." Poirot's smile was disarming. "Meddle? None I solve. And this box, it is part of the solution. Perhaps you recognize its crest? It matches a certain handkerchief, I believe. Crane's jaw tightened, but before he could respond, a shout echoed from the manor. Servants appeared, carrying lanterns, and Lord Ashford followed, his face pale. Monsieur Poirot, come quickly. It's Dr. Hensley, she's gone. Poirot exchanged a glance with Hastings, then addressed Crane. We shall continue this discussion later, monsieur. He retrieved the box, its weight substantial, and followed Ashford back to the manor, Hastings at his heels in the drawing-room. The guests were in disarray. Lady Eleanor sat trembling, a shawl around her shoulders, while Thomas Ridley, the groundskeeper, stood by the door, his eyes averted. Lord Ashford explained. Dr. Hensley had been seen leaving her room at dusk, her notebook clutched tightly, but she hadn't returned for dinner. A search of her quarters revealed her belongings intact, but her coat and boots were missing. Poirot's mind raced. Dr. Hensley, she is a woman of curiosity. Perhaps she pursued a clue of her own. Tell me, Lord Ashford, where was she last seen? A servant saw her near the stables, Ashford said. She seemed agitated, muttering about the truth. Being close, Poirot nodded, the box still in his hands. I shall investigate. But first, this box requires safekeeping. He handed it to Ashford, who locked it in a study safe. Poirot then turned to the guests, his voice calm but commanding. Mesdames et messieurs, remain here. The Phantom's game grows complex, but Hercule Poirot will unravel it. He and Hastings headed to the stables, the night air sharp. The stables were quiet, the horses stirring softly. Poirot's torch swept the ground, revealing fresh footprints leading to a side path. She was here, he said, and in haste. They followed the trail to a small shed, its door side path. The footprints were small, likely a woman's, and their hurried pattern suggested urgency. Poirot knelt, examining the tracks in the soft earth. Dr. Hensley was indeed here, Hastings, he said, his voice steady despite the tension of the moment. She pursued something, perhaps a lead on the treasure. We must find her before the Phantom does. Hastings gripped his stick tighter, his eyes scanning the darkened path. If she's out here alone, Poirot, she could be in danger. That warning note wasn't exactly friendly. Oui, mon ami, Poirot replied, standing and brushing dirt from his trousers. But danger is no match for method. Come, let us follow. The path wound through a copse of trees, the moonlight filtering through bare branches. The shed was a small, weathered structure, its door slightly ajar. Poirot pushed it open, revealing a cluttered interior, rakes, shovels, and sacks of grain mud. No sign of Dr. Hensley. A single sheet of paper lay on a workbench, its edges curled. Poirot lifted it, his torch illuminating a hurried scrawl. The Crestwell seal found in archives. Fountain is key. Must confirm tonight. Poirot's eyes narrowed. She discovered something about the Crestwells, Hastings. The seal, perhaps? It matches the owl crest on the box. She was close to a breakthrough. Hastings frowned. But where is she now? If the Phantom got to her— Do not assume the worst, Poirot interrupted, though his tone carried a hint of concern. Dr. Hensley is resourceful. She may be hiding, or she may have found another clue. We return to the fountain. The riddle insists upon it. They retraced their steps to the fountain, the night growing colder, the manor's lights distant pinpricks. Poirot's mind churned, piecing together the fragments. The journal's tale of the Ashford-Crestwell feud, the owl crest linking the key and box, and now Dr. Hensley's note about a Crestwell seal. The treasure was no myth, and the Phantom's action sabotage, warnings, the handkerchief suggested a personal stake. But whose? At the fountain, Poirot examined the metal box again. now safely retrieved from Ashford's study. The owl crest gleamed under his torch, but the lock remained stubborn. He turned to the riddle. Where water weeps, the secret sleeps, guarded by stone in moonlight's keep. A drained basin revealed no further compartments, but Poirot's gaze fell on the cherubs, their stone eyes seeming to watch. He climbed into the dry basin, inspecting each figure. One cherub's hand, poised as if pouring water, felt loose. With a twist, it turned, and a faint grinding sound echoed as a stone slab in the basin's floor slid aside, revealing a second box, this one smaller, with the same owl crest. "Mon Dieu!" Poirot exclaimed, lifting the box. It was lighter, its lock yielding to the owl-etched key from the portrait. Inside was another map fragment, its lines connecting to the clock tower's piece, showing more of the maze and a path to the stables. A note accompanied it. The final piece lies where hooves tread. Beware the watcher. Hastings whistled. Another map piece. We're closing in, Poirot. But what's this about a watcher? The phantom, or his ally, Poirot said. They are near, always. This box confirms the fountain's role, but the stables are next. And Dr. Hensley, she may be there. Before they could move, a commotion erupted near the manor. Lanterns bobbed as servants shouted, and Lord Ashford's voice carried, "Monsieur Poirot." "She's found." They hurried back, finding Dr. Hensley. In the drawing-room, disheveled but unharmed, a blanket around her shoulders. She clutched her notebook, her eyes wide. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, "I found it the Crestwell seal in the archives. It's the owl, tied to their claim on the treasure. I went to the stables to confirm, but someone followed me. I hid in the loft." Poirot's expression softened. "You are safe now, Dr. Hensley. But tell me, what did you find?" She opened her notebook, revealing a sketch of the owl crest and notes on the Crestwell's lost fortune, hidden by Sir Geoffrey Ashford to thwart their claim. "The stables," she said. "There's a hidden vault there. I saw the entrance, but didn't dare enter alone." Poirot nodded, the map fragment in his pocket aligning with her words. "You have done well, madame. The stables are indeed our next step, but you must rest. The phantom's eyes are everywhere." He escorted her to Lord Ashford, ensuring her safety, then turned to Hastings. "The phantom grows reckless, mon ami. The sabotage, the pursuit of Dr. Hensley, he fears we are close. Tomorrow we enter the stables." As the guests retired, Poirot lingered, confronting Victor Crane in the hall. "Monsieur Crane, your initials on the handkerchief are most curious. Care to explain?" Crane's face hardened. "I told you, I'm here for business, not games. That handkerchief's not mine. Someone's framing me." Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "Perhaps, but Hercule Poirot sees all, monsieur." In his room, Poirot spread the two map fragments, their lines forming a clearer path to the stables. The journal, the riddles, Dr. Hensley's findings, all pointed to a vault. The phantom's warning in the handkerchief suggested a desperate attempt to mislead. Crane's denial rang partially true, but Ridley's nerves and Grayson's furtive glances hinted at other players. The chapter closed with Poirot at his window, the moon illuminating the fountain. The second map fragment and Dr. Hensley's safe return were victories, but the phantom's shadow loomed. The stables beckoned, and Poirot's little gray cells were ready for the next challenge, satisfied with the night's progress, yet poised for the unraveling truth. Chapter 8. The historian's trail. The morning sun bathed Ashford Manor in a deceptively serene light, but the air inside was thick with suspicion. Hercule Poirot sat at breakfast, his tisane untouched, his mind dissecting the latest clues. Map fragments pointing to a hidden vault in the stables, Dr. Margaret Hensley's narrow escape, and the lingering question of the phantom's identity. The historian's discovery of the Crestwell seal had confirmed the treasure's ties to the ancient feud, but her disappearance and subsequent return raised new questions. Was she a victim, or was she playing a deeper game? Captain Hastings, buttering a piece of toast, leaned in. Poirot, Dr. Hensley's story about hiding in the stables, bit convenient, don't you think? She's awfully keen on this treasure. Poirot's eyes narrowed, his mustache twitching. Convenient, oui, but not necessarily false, mon ami. Dr. Hensley is driven by knowledge, not greed. Yet her actions, they suggest she knows more than she shares. We must investigate her trail. He glanced across the dining room. Dr. Hensley sat quietly, her notebook clutched tightly, her face pale but composed. Lady Eleanor, still shaken, avoided eye contact while Victor Crane, the businessman, glared at his plate, his earlier confrontation with Poirot clearly weighing on him. Thomas Ridley, the groundskeeper, lingered near the door, his hands fidgeting. The butler, Mr. Grayson, moved with forced calm, his eyes darting to Poirot whenever he passed. Poirot rose, adjusting his tie. Hastings, we begin with Dr. Hensley's room. Her notes, they may hold the key to her actions, and the phantoms. They slipped away from breakfast, ascending to the guest wing. Dr. Hensley's room was orderly, her desk covered with books and papers. Poirot examined them, finding sketches of the owl crest, maps of the estate, and detailed notes on the Ashford-Crestwell feud. One page, tucked beneath a blotter, caught his eye, a cryptic message in her handwriting. The chapel holds the truth, where faith guards the past. Another riddle, Poirot murmured, showing it to Hastings. Not the phantom script, but Dr. Hensley's own deduction. She believed the chapel was the next step. Hastings frowned. The chapel? But she said she went to the stables. We? Poirot said, his voice low. Either she misled us, or she discovered this after her return. We shall visit the chapel, but first we confirm her story. They headed to the stables, the morning air crisp. The footprints from Dr. Hensley's trail were still visible, leading to the shed where they'd found her note about the Crestwell seal. Inside, Poirot examined the loft, finding a disturbed pile of hay and a single page torn from a notebook, its edges singed. It read, "Vault confirmed. Crestwell's mark. Danger near." Poirot's eyes gleamed. She was here, Hastings, and she was afraid. Someone followed her, as she said. But this note, it suggests she saw the vault. They searched the stables, following the map fragment's path. Behind a stack of crates, Poirot found a trapdoor, its edges concealed by straw. It was locked, its surface bearing the owl crest. The key from the portrait didn't fit, but a faint scratching noise came from within. Then silence. "Someone's been here," Hastings whispered, gripping his stick. "The phantom?" "Perhaps," Poirot said. "Or another seeking the vault." We returned to the chapel. Dr. Hensley's note points there. The manor's chapel was a small stone building tucked behind the gardens, its stained glass windows glowing in the sunlight. Ascended the stone steps to the chapel door. Poirot knocked, and Lord Ashford appeared, looking weary. "Monsieur Poirot," Ashford said, "any progress?" "The guests are growing anxious." Poirot nodded. "Some, Lord." "Ashford, I must inspect the chapel." "May I?" Ashford granted permission, and they entered. The chapel was dim, its pews polished but dusty, the air heavy with the scent of old wood. Poirot's torch swept over the altar and the pews. Beneath one, he found a hidden compartment, its lid engraved with the owl crest. Inside was a third map fragment, completing the path to the stable's vault, and a note, "The final key lies where faith meets stone." Hastings gasped. "Another piece. The map's complete now, isn't it?" "Oui," Poirot said, studying the fragment. "The vault is our destination, but this note It speaks of a key in the chapel." As he spoke, a deafening crash shattered the silence. A chandelier above plummeted to the floor, missing them by inches. Hastings yelped, diving aside, while Poirot stood calm, his eyes scanning the rafters. "Sabotage," he said, brushing dust from his sleeve. "The phantom grows desperate." They rushed outside, finding no one, but footprints led to the gardens. "He's close," Hastings said, his voice tense. Poirot nodded, pocketing the map fragment. "Close, but not invisible. We return to the manor. I must think." Back in his room, Poirot laid out the 3 map fragments, their lines forming a clear path to the stable vault. The chapel's note, "The final key lies where faith meets stone," suggested another key, perhaps hidden in the chapel's stonework. Dr. Hensley's absence, Crane's handkerchief, Ridley's nerves, Grayson's glances, all were threads in a web Poirot was determined to untangle. He summoned Dr. Hensley, who arrived pale but composed. "Madame," Poirot said, "your note about the chapel. What did you mean?" She hesitated. "I found records of a Crestwell vault in the chapel archives. The seal matched the owl. I believe a key is hidden there, in the stonework." Poirot nodded, satisfied. "You have been most helpful. Rest now. The phantom will not harm you under Poirot's watch." As she left, Hastings whispered, "She's in deep, isn't she?" "Deep, oui," Poirot said, "but not the phantom. Her passion is for history, not treasure. The phantom is another." The chapter closed with Poirot at his desk, the map complete, the chapel's riddle in hand. The vault was within reach, but the chandelier's fall was a stark reminder of the phantom's reach. The final key awaited, and Poirot's little gray cells were poised to find it, content with the days. Progress, yet ready for the next move. Chapter 9. The Village Encounter. The morning mist clung to the rolling hills around Ashford Manor, softening the edges of the estate as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings set out for the nearby village of Ashford Cross, the trail of Dr. Margaret. Hensley's disappearance and return had led them to the stables, but her note about the chapel and the Crestwell vault hinted at a broader mystery. The map fragments, now complete, pointed to a hidden vault beneath the stables, but the final key, where faith meets stone, remained elusive. Poirot suspected Dr. Hensley's research had drawn her beyond the manor, and he intended to follow her path. Hastings, undled against the chill, walked briskly beside Poirot, his expression uneasy. "I say, Poirot, traipsing to the village feels a bit off the beaten track. Are you sure Dr. Hensley came this way?" Poirot's eyes gleamed, his mustache perfectly aligned despite the damp air. "Certain, mon ami?" "None. But the little gray cells, they suggest Dr. Hensley sought answers outside the manor. Her note about the Crestwell seal, she mentioned archives, and the village church may hold records the manor lacks. We follow her trail, and perhaps we find more than she intended." The village of Ashford Cross was a quaint cluster of stone. Cottages, a bakery, and a weathered pub called the Owl's Nest. The church, a small Gothic structure with a leaning steeple, stood at the village's edge. Poirot's inquiries at the manor had revealed that Dr. Hensley had been seen heading this way at dawn, her notebook in hand. A servant's gossip suggested she'd asked about local records, specifically those tied to the Crestwell family. They entered the pub, its low ceilings and smoky air a stark contrast to the manor's grandeur. The patrons, mostly farmers and tradesmen, eyed them curiously. Poirot approached the bar, where a grizzled landlord polished glasses. "Bonjour, monsieur," Poirot said, his tone genial. "I seek a lady, a scholar, who may have visited your village yesterday. Dr. Margaret Hensley, perhaps asking about old families?" The landlord squinted, then nodded. "A woman like that was in here last evening. Nervous, she was scribbling in a book. Asked about the Crestwells and the church archives. Said she'd be back, but she didn't show. Pulse. Quickened. And where did she go after? Toward the church, I reckon, the landlord said. But you'd best ask old Vicar Ramsay. He keeps the records. As they left the pub, a commotion broke out near the bar. Two men, their voices raised, shoved each other, spilling ale and knocking over chairs. The landlord shouted for order, but the brawl escalated, drawing the patron's attention. Poirot's eyes narrowed. A distraction, Hastings. Quick, to the church. They hurried to the church, its heavy oak door creaking as they entered. The interior was cool, lit by flickering candles. Vicar Ramsay, a frail man with wire-rimmed spectacles, greeted them. Gentlemen, what brings you here? Poirot bowed. Slightly. Monsieur Vicar, I am Hercule Poirot, investigating a matter at Ashford Manor. A lady, Dr. Hensley, may have visited your archives. She sought information on the Crestwell family. Ramsay's face tightened. Yes, she was here. Yesterday, poring over old parish records. She found something a ledger, mentioning a Crestwell vault, sealed after the feud with the Ashfords. She left in a hurry, muttering about danger. Before Poirot could press further, the church door burst open. Dr. Hensley herself stumbled in, her coat torn, her face flushed with fear. Monsieur Poirot, she gasped, clutching his arm. I was followed someone from the manor. They tried to stop me. Hastings steadied her. Good heavens, woman, who was it? I didn't see their face, she said, trembling. A cloaked figure, near the stables last night. I hid in the village until dawn, then came here. The Crestwells, they're behind this. The Phantom is one of them. Poirot's voice was calm but firm. Madame, what did you find in the archives? She opened her notebook, revealing a sketch of the owl crest and a family tree. The Crestwells had a secret society, guardians of their lost fortune. The last descendant, a man named Elias Crestwell, vanished decades ago. I believe the Phantom is his heir, seeking to reclaim the treasure. Poirot's eyes gleamed. And the vault? In the stables, she said. The ledger mentioned. A key hidden in the chapel, but I couldn't find it. The Phantom, he knew I was close. As she spoke, a shadow moved outside the stained glass window. Poirot's hand shot up, silencing her. He motioned to Hastings, who crept to the door but found no one. Another distraction, Poirot said, his voice low. The Phantom is near, and he is desperate. Dr. Hensley, still shaken, handed Poirot a folded paper from her notebook. I copied this from the ledger. It's the final map piece, showing the vault's entrance. I didn't dare return to the manor alone. Poirot unfolded it, revealing a detailed sketch of the stables, the trapdoor. Marked clearly. You have done well, madame, he said. This completes the map. The vault is within our reach. They escorted Dr. Hensley back to the manor, ensuring her safety with Lord Ashford. In the drawing room, the guests were restless, whispering about her absence. Victor Crane glowered, his hands clenched, while Thomas Ridley avoided Poirot's gaze. Lady Eleanor, pale as ever, excused herself, claiming fatigue. Poirot retreated to his room, the final map piece joining the others. The path to the vault was clear, but the chapel's key, where faith meets stone, remained unfound. The Phantom's pursuit of Dr. Hensley confirmed his fear of exposure, and the bar fight suggested an accomplice in the village. Hastings. Poirot said, spreading the map, tomorrow we open the vault. But first, I must revisit the chapel. The key is there, hidden in stone. Hastings nodded, though his expression was grim. This Phantom's getting bolder, Poirot. Following. Hensley, starting fights? What's next? Next, mon ami, Poirot said, his voice resolute. "We end his game. The map is complete, and Hercule Poirot is ready." The chapter closed with Poirot at his window, the village church's steeple visible in the distance. Dr. Hensley's return and the final map piece were triumphs, but the phantom's shadow loomed closer. The chapel held the last key, and Poirot's little gray cells were poised for the next move, satisfied with the day's revelations yet braced for the challenge. Ahead. Chapter 10. The underground vault. The dawnlight filtered through the mist enveloping Ashford Manor, casting a ghostly glow over the stables as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings approached. The completed map, pieced together from fragments found in the clock tower, maze, and chapel, pointed unequivocally to a hidden vault beneath the stables. The final clue from the chapel, the final key lies where faith meets stone, remained unresolved. But Poirot was undeterred. Dr. Hensley's revelations about the Crestwell Secret Society and the Owlcrest Vault had brought them tantalizingly close to the treasure. The phantom's increasing desperation, evidenced by his pursuit of Dr. Hensley and the village distraction, only sharpened Poirot's resolve. Hastings, his breath visible in the chilly air, clutched the map fragments. "Poirot, this vault. Business feels like we're walking into the lion's den." The phantom's been one step ahead all along. Poirot's green eyes gleamed, his mustache impeccable despite the early hour. "Ahead, perhaps, mon ami, but not above. The phantom fears we are close, and fear makes one careless. The vault, it is the heart of his game, and Hercule Poirot will uncover it." They entered the stables, the scent of hay and leather heavy. In the air, the horses stirred softly, their eyes glinting in the dim light. Poirot navigated to the trapdoor Dr. Hensley had described, hidden behind crates and covered with straw. The owl crest on its surface matched the key from the portrait. Gallery, but the lock was different, intricate and unyielding. Poirot frowned, tapping the trapdoor with his cane. "The chapel's key is still missing, Hastings, but we shall try another method." He examined the surrounding floor, noticing faint scratches in the dirt, suggesting recent activity. "Someone has been here," he said, his voice low. "The phantom, or his ally, knows we are near." Hastings, ever practical, began shifting crates to reveal the trapdoor fully. "Let's pry it open, then. No key, no problem." Poirot raised a hand. "Patience, mon ami. Force is not the way of Poirot, but perhaps—" He knelt, inspecting the trapdoor's edges. A small lever, disguised as a knot in the wood, caught his eye. He pressed it, and with a soft groan, the trapdoor clicked and lifted slightly, revealing a dark staircase descending into the earth. "By Jove!" Hastings exclaimed. "You've done it, Poirot." "Not yet," Poirot said, his torch illuminating the narrow steps. "The vault awaits, but we must be cautious. The phantom's warnings are not idle." They descended, the air growing colder and damper. At the bottom, a stone chamber opened, its walls etched with faded crest owls intertwined with the crescent moon, the Crestwell emblem. In the center stood a heavy iron vault, its door engraved with a riddle. "The truth is guarded by the one who seeks, revealed only to the mind that speaks." Poirot's pulse quickened. "A final test," he said. "This riddle, it demands a password, not a key." Hastings frowned. "A password? From where?" Poirot's mind raced, recalling the riddles, the journal, and Dr. Hensley's notes. The Crestwell Society, guardians of the treasure, valued wisdom. The first riddle, "The treasure lies where shadows read," pointed to knowledge. He murmured, "Wisdom," and the vault's lock clicked, the door creaking open. Inside, a trove glittered, gold coins, sparkling jewels, and a golden owl statuette, its eyes set with emeralds. Beside it lay a parchment, the phantom's script. Unmistakable. "You have found the prize, Poirot, But the game is not done. The true phantom hides among them. Hastings gasped. The treasure. We've got it, Poirot. But what's this about the phantom hiding? Poirot's expression was grave. The treasure is but a piece, Hastings. The phantom's identity, this, is the true prize. He is among the guests, and this note confirms it. As they gathered the contents, a small selection to present to Lord Ashford, they heard a grinding above. The trapdoor slammed shut, plunging them into darkness save for Poirot's torch. Hastings rushed to the stairs, pounding on the door. Trapped! The blighters locked us in. Poirot remained calm, examining the vault's walls. A loose stone revealed a hidden lever, and with a pull, the trapdoor groaned open. The phantom underestimates Hercule Poirot, he said, leading the way out. Back in the stables, they found no sign of the saboteur, but fresh footprints led toward the manor. Poirot clutched the owl statuette, its weight a reminder of their rear. Triumph. We return to the manor, Hastings. The phantom is among the guests, and I suspect Monsieur Crane. His handkerchief, his temper, they betray him. At the manor, Lord Ashford was stunned by the treasure. Incredible, he said, locking the statuette in his safe. But Dr. Hensley, she's shaken. Says she saw someone watching her window last night. Poirot nodded. The phantom grows. Bold. I must speak with her, and with Crane. He found Dr. Hensley in the library, her notes scattered. Madame, you saw someone last night. Describe them. She hesitated. A shadow, cloaked, near the gardens. I thought it was the phantom, but I couldn't see more. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Merci. Rest now. You are safe. He then confronted Crane in the drawing room, holding up the handkerchief. Monsieur Crane, this was found in the maze. Your initials, none? And now the vault is found. What do you know? Crane's face reddened. I told you, it's not. Mine. Someone's framing me, Poirot. I'm here for business, not treasure hunts. Poirot smiled enigmatically. We shall see, monsieur. In his room, Poirot spread the map fragments and the phantom's note. The treasure was secured, but the riddle's hint, the true phantom hides among them, pointed to a guest. Crane's denial, Dr. Hensley's fear, Ridley's nerves, Grayson's glances, all were suspects. The chapel's key remained. Unfound, but the vault's opening was a victory. The chapter closed with Poirot at his desk, the owl statuette's image in his mind. The treasure was his, but the phantom's identity was the true prize. The game was nearing its end, and Poirot was ready to unmask his foe, satisfied with the vault's secrets, yet poised for the final confrontation. Chapter 11. The masquerade trap the evening at Ashford Manor was alive with the glitter of anticipation, as Lord Ashford had announced a masquerade ball to lift the guests, spirits amid the growing tension of the phantom's riddles. The grand ballroom sparkled with chandeliers, their light reflecting off gilded masks and silken gowns. Hercule Poirot, impeccable in a black suit with a silver half-mask accentuating his sharp green eyes, moved through the crowd with the precision of a chess master. Captain Hastings, less comfortable in a domino mask, trailed him, his expression a mix of excitement and unease. Poirot, Hastings whispered, dodging a twirling couple. A ball seems a bit frivolous with a treasure found and a phantom on the loose. What's the plan? Poirot's mustache twitched beneath his mask. The plan, mon ami, is to observe. The masquerade, it is a perfect stage for the phantom to hide, yet also to reveal himself. The note from the vault, the true phantom, hides among them. It tells us he is here, among the guests. Tonight, we watch, and we listen. The ballroom was a whirl of color and music, the guests' masks concealing their expressions, but not their motives. Poirot's gaze swept over. Lady Eleanor, her auburn hair cascading beneath a feathered mask, her hands trembling as she sipped champagne. Victor Crane, in a stark black mask, stood near the orchestra, his posture rigid. Dr. Margaret Hensley, her scholarly air softened by a velvet mask, conversed with Lord Ashford, who wore a golden lion's mask. Thomas Ridley, the groundskeeper, looked out of place in a plain cloth mask, lingering near the servants' entrance. The butler, Mr. Grayson, moved silently, his face hidden behind a featureless white mask. Poirot's mind churned, piecing together the clues. The treasure secured in the vault, the owl statuette locked in Ashford's safe, and the phantom's taunting note. The final key, where faith meets stone, still eluded him, but the masquerade offered a chance to provoke a reaction. He suspected Victor Crane, whose initials matched the handkerchief and whose temper betrayed unease. But the phantom's cunning suggested a deeper deception dot as the orchestra struck up a waltz. Poirot approached Crane, his voice smooth. "Monsieur, Crane, you enjoy the ball? Or does the mask conceal more than your face?" Crane's eyes narrowed behind his mask. "What's that supposed to mean, Poirot?" "I'm here to enjoy myself, not play your games." Poirot smiled enigmatically. "Games? Monsieur? The phantom plays a fine one, and your handkerchief, it was found in the maze. A coincidence, perhaps?" Crane's jaw tightened. "I told you, it's not mine. Someone's trying to pin this on me, and I'm not the fool you think." Before Poirot could press further, a servant slipped through the crowd, pressing a folded note into his hand. Poirot opened it, recognizing the phantom's elegant script. "The final riddle awaits in the ballroom's heart. Solve it, Poirot, or lose the game." Poirot's pulse quickened. "The ballroom's heart," he murmured, scanning the room. At its center, a marble statue of a dancing couple stood on a pedestal, its base carved with intricate patterns. He approached, his torch discreetly illuminating the carvings. A faint inscription read, "The dance of truth reveals the past." "A riddle within a riddle," Poirot said to Hastings, who had joined him. "The statue, it is the key. But how?" He examined the pedestal, his fingers tracing the carvings. A small panel, nearly invisible, yielded to pressure, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a single parchment, its words chilling. "The treasure is yours, but vengeance is mine. The Crestwell blood demands its due." Hastings gasped. "Vengeance? This phantom's not just after gold, Poirot. It's personal. Poirot said, pocketing the parchment. "The Crestwell feud, it drives him. The phantom seeks not just the treasure, but retribution." As he spoke, a masked figure in a dark cloak glided past, their eyes locking with Poirot's for a fleeting moment before they vanished into the crowd. Poirot moved swiftly, signaling Hastings to follow. They wove through the dancers, reaching the figure near a side door. Poirot seized their arm, pulling off the mask to reveal Miss Clara Beaumont, the young heiress, her face pale but defiant. "Mademoiselle Beaumont," Poirot exclaimed, "you are the phantom?" She laughed nervously. "No, Monsieur Poirot. I found the note in my room, telling me to come here, to watch you. I thought it was part of the ball's fun." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "A note, you say? Show me." She produced a crumpled paper, its script matching the phantom's. "Watch Poirot tonight. The game nears its end." Poirot's mind raced. Clara was a pawn, not the mastermind, but the phantom was orchestrating every move. He released her, his voice gentle but firm. "Return to the ball, mademoiselle. Say nothing of this." As Clara slipped away, Hastings whispered, "A decoy, Poirot? The phantom's playing us like fiddles." "Indeed," Poirot said, his gaze sweeping the room. "But he has made a mistake. The note, the statue, they reveal his presence. He is here, and he is watching." The ball continued, but Poirot's focus was razor sharp. He observed the guests, noting Ridley's absence from the room and Grayson's overly attentive service. Lady Eleanor's trembling hands and Crane's defensive posture lingered in his mind. The parchment's mention of vengeance confirmed Dr. Hensley's theory of a Crestwell descendant. But who? As the night drew to a close, Poirot retreated to a quiet corner, the new riddle in hand. The statue's clue, "The dance of truth reveals the past," suggested a connection to the chapel's key, perhaps a final piece hidden in the manor's history. The Phantom's game was nearing its climax, and Poirot was determined to end it. The chapter closed with Poirot standing by the ballroom's windows, the moonlight casting his shadow across the floor. The masquerade had yielded a new riddle and a glimpse of the Phantom's reach, but Clara's unmasking was a misstep by the foe. Poirot's little gray cells hummed, satisfied with the night's progress, yet poised for the final unraveling. Chapter 12. The Phantom's Face the morning after the masquerade ball. Ashford Manor buzzed with a tense undercurrent, the guests' whispers filled with speculation about the Phantom's latest move. Hercule Poirot, immaculate in his pinstriped suit, stood in the drawing-room, his green eyes scanning the gathered company. The treasure had been found in the stable vault, the owl statuette and jewels safely locked in Lord Ashford's safe. But the Phantom's note, the true Phantom hides among them, and the masquerade's riddle, "The dance of truth reveals the past," pointed to a final revelation, the Phantom's identity. Poirot was determined to unmask his adversary today. Captain Hastings, nursing a cup of tea, leaned close. "Poirot, that business with Miss Beaumont last night, she's not the Phantom, but someone's using her. This is getting dangerous." "Oui, mon ami," Poirot replied, his mustache twitching. "The Phantom grows careless, sending notes to innocents like Mademoiselle Beaumont. His desperation, it betrays him. Today, we end his game." Poirot had spent the night reviewing the clues, the riddles, the journal's tale of the Ashford-Crestwell feud, Dr. Hensley's notes on the secret society, the handkerchief with Victor Crane's initials, and the sabotaged chandelier and trapdoor. The Phantom was a Crestwell descendant, seeking vengeance and the treasure. But the final key, where faith meets stone, remained unfound, likely the last piece to confirm his identity. He called for a gathering in the drawing-room, requesting Lord Ashford to assemble all guests and key staff. As they filed in Lady Eleanor, pale and fidgeting, Victor Crane, his jaw tight, Dr. Hensley, clutching her notebook, Miss Beaumont, nervous but composed, Thomas Ridley, the groundskeeper, eyes downcast, and Mr. Grayson, the butler, stiffly attentive. Poirot stood at the room's center, his presence commanding silence. "Mesdames et messieurs," he began, his voice clear, "the game of the Phantom has reached its end. The treasure, it has found gold, jewels, the owl statuette, hidden by Sir Geoffrey Ashford to thwart the Crestwells. But the Phantom, he seeks not only wealth, but vengeance for an ancient wrong. He is among us, and today Hercule Poirot will reveal him." A murmur rippled through the room. Lady Eleanor gasped, clutching her shawl, while Crane's eyes narrowed. Poirot raised a hand, continuing, "The riddles, they led us to the library, the fountain, the maze, the chapel, the stables. Each step was a test, but also a trail. The Phantom watched, sabotaged, and warned, but his clues, they betray him." He produced the handkerchief with VC embroidered on it. "This, found in the maze, points to Messieurs Crane. Yet you deny it, monsieur. A frame, perhaps?" Crane stood, his face red. "I told you, it's not mine. Someone's playing tricks." Poirot nodded. "We tricks, but let us consider the clues. The journal speaks of the Crestwell feud, Dr. Hensley's notes of their secret society. The Phantom, he is a descendant, driven by vengeance. The sabotaged chandelier, the locked trapdoor, these are not the acts of a guest. but one who knows the manor intimately. His gaze shifted to Thomas Ridley, the groundskeeper, who flinched. "Monsieur Ridley, you are nervous. You lied about the maze, the gardens. You know the manor's secrets, non?" Ridley's hands shook. I don't know what you mean, sir." Poirot stepped closer, his voice soft but piercing. "You are Elias Cresswell's heir, are you not? The last of the Cresswell line, working as a groundskeeper to hide your purpose. You crafted the riddles, sabotaged the manor, pursued Dr. Hensley. You are the phantom." The room erupted in gasps. Ridley's face drained of color, and he bolted for the door, but Hastings, anticipating the move, blocked his path. Ridley collapsed into a chair, his voice breaking. "Yes, it's true. I'm Elias's grandson. The Ashfords stole our legacy, our honor. I wanted it back, the treasure and justice." He confessed, his words tumbling out. The riddles were a test designed to draw out the treasure while taunting the Ashfords. He used the manor's passages, known to his family, to move unseen, planting the handkerchief to frame Crane, who he knew was after the treasure for debts. The sabotages were meant to scare, not harm, but Poirot's persistence forced his hand. Poirot nodded, his expression serene. "You played a clever game, Monsieur Ridley, but Hercule Poirot sees through deception. The treasure is found, your vengeance exposed. What now?" Ridley's shoulders slumped. "I only wanted what was ours. I'll leave, disappear. You've won." Poirot signaled to Lord Ashford. "He is your responsibility, monsieur. But I suggest leniency. His crime is passion, not malice." As Ridley was escorted out, slipping through a servant's exit before anyone could stop him, the guests sat stunned. Poirot turned to them. "The game is over. The treasure is safe, the phantom unmasked. Let us leave the past to rest." The chapter closed with Poirot standing by the drawing-room's fireplace, the handkerchief in his hand, its false clue a testament to his triumph. Ridley's confession resolved the mystery, and though he'd escaped, Poirot was satisfied. The treasure was secured, the phantom's motives laid bare, and the manor could breathe again, its secrets finally at rest. Chapter 13. The treasure's fate. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of Ashford Manor's study, casting a warm glow over the polished oak desk where Hercule Poirot sat with Lord Reginald Ashford. The air was lighter today, the weight of the phantom's mystery lifted by Thomas Ridley's confession and escape the previous day. The owl statuette, gold coins, and jewels from the underground vault rested in the safe, their presence a tangible reminder of the solved riddle. Yet Poirot's mind lingered on loose ends, the final key, where faith meets stone, never found, and a lingering unease among the guests. His little gray cells demanded closure. Captain Hastings, standing by the fireplace, adjusted his tie, his expression a mix of relief and curiosity. "Poirot, you've done it, unmasked the phantom, and found the treasure. But Ridley slipping away like that, doesn't it bother you?" Poirot's mustache twitched, his green eyes sharp. "Bother, mon ami? Non, Monsieur Ridley's escape. It is a small price for the truth." His confession revealed his motive's vengeance for the Cresswell legacy. The treasure is secured, and the manor is safe. But there is work yet to do. Lord Ashford, looking weary but relieved, leaned forward. "Monsieur Poirot, I cannot thank you enough. The treasure, it's more than I imagined. But what should we do with it? It's caused nothing but trouble." Poirot steepled his fingers, his voice measured. "The treasure, Lord Ashford, is a piece of your history, but also a burden. I suggest a gesture of goodwill donated to a museum, where it may be studied, not coveted. Let the Ashford and Cresswell feud rest in the past, where it belongs." Ashford nodded slowly. "A museum? Yes, that feels right. The British Museum, perhaps, to preserve the owl statuette and the story of our families. But what of Ridley? Should we pursue him? Poirot's gaze softened. Monsieur Ridley sought justice, not blood. His escape, it is his surrender. Let him fade into obscurity. The law, it may not understand his heart as Poirot does. As they spoke, Dr. Margaret Hensley entered, her notebook tucked under her arm, her face alight with scholarly zeal. Monsieur Poirot, I've been compiling my findings. The Crestwell Society, the owl crest, it's a historian's dream. May I assist with the museum transfer? I'd love to document the treasure's history. Poirot smiled. Madame, your passion for truth is admirable. You may assist Lord Ashford, but take care your curiosity nearly cost you dearly. She blushed, nodding. I won't forget your help, Monsieur Poirot. I was reckless, chasing the vault alone. After she left, Poirot turned to Hastings. Dr. Hensley's return, it was a stroke of fortune, but it reminds us of another matter, Monsieur Crane's involvement. Victor Crane, the businessman, had been a persistent suspect, his initials on the handkerchief a deliberate misdirection. By Ridley, Poirot summoned him to the study, where Crane stood, defensive but weary. Monsieur Crane, Poirot said, your denials about the handkerchief, they were truthful. Ridley framed you, knowing your debts made you a likely suspect. But tell me, what was your true purpose here? Crane sighed, his shoulders slumping. I heard rumors of the treasure. My business is failing debts, piling up. I thought if I could find it, discreetly, I could settle things. I never meant harm, Poirot. Poirot's expression was stern, but not unkind. Greed, it clouds the judgment, monsieur. But you did not sabotage or threaten. I suggest you speak with Lord Ashford. Perhaps a legal arrangement can ease your debts without theft. Crane nodded, chastened, and left to meet Ashford. Hastings raised an eyebrow. You're letting him off easy, Poirot. Not easy, Hastings, Poirot said. Justice must balance mercy. Crane is no criminal, only desperate. The true villain was Ridley, and his story is done. Poirot then sought Lady Eleanor, finding her in the conservatory, her hands steady. For the first time in days. Madame, he said gently, the treasure is found, the phantom unmasked. Your fear, it is lifted, non? She smiled faintly. Yes, Monsieur Poirot. I knew of the treasure legends, but I feared they'd bring ruin. You've saved us from that. Poirot bowed. The manor is yours to enjoy, free of shadows. Later, Poirot revisited the chapel, curious about the unfound key. The riddle, where faith meets stone, nagged at him. He examined the altar, its stone surface worn but solid. A faint seam caught his eye, and with a gentle press, a small compartment opened, revealing a silver key etched with an owl. It was the final key, likely meant for another lock in the vault, now unnecessary with the treasure secured. Curious, Poirot murmured, pocketing the key. The phantom left no stone unturned, yet this one eluded him. Back in his room, Poirot reflected on the case. The riddles, the sabotages, the treasure, all were pieces of a puzzle crafted by Ridley to reclaim his family's honor. The key, a final flourish, confirmed Poirot's mastery. He penned a note to Lord Ashford, recommending a discreet investigation into Crane's debts and ensuring Dr. Hensley's research was supported. The chapter closed with Poirot at his window, the silver key in hand, its owl crest glinting. The treasure's fate was settled, the phantom's game ended, and the manor's peace restored. Yet a faint unease lingered. Ridley's escape hinted at a final twist. One Poirot would soon unravel, content with the day's resolution, but ever vigilant. Chapter 14. The final bow, the late morning sun, bathed Ashford Manor in a golden haze, its warmth a stark contrast to the mysteries that had unfolded within its walls. Hercule Poirot stood in the grand foyer, his suitcase packed, his hat and cane in hand, ready to depart. The Phantom's game was over. Thomas Ridley, unmasked as the Crestwell heir, had confessed and fled. The treasure was secured for the British Museum, and the Manor's guests were returning to their lives, their secrets laid bare. Yet Poirot's little grey cells remained alert, savoring the elegance of the case's resolution, while pondering the silver key found in the chapel, the final piece of the puzzle that had gone unused. Captain Hastings, adjusting his scarf, joined him, his face a mix of relief and admiration. "Well, Poirot, you've done it again. Unraveled the Phantom's riddles, found the treasure, and sent Ridley packing. Quite a show, old chap." Poirot's mustache twitched, his green eyes gleaming. "A show, mon ami?" "Non, it was a symphony of the mind, each note played with precision. The Phantom challenged Hercule Poirot, and Poirot has prevailed." As they awaited their car, a servant approached, holding a sealed envelope. "For you, Monsieur Poirot," he said, bowing. The envelope bore no name, only a familiar, elegant script. Poirot opened it, revealing a brief letter. "Monsieur Poirot, you have bested me with grace. The treasure was never my true aim, only the honor of my family. I leave England to begin anew. Thank you for your fairness." The Phantom, Poirot's lips curved into a faint smile. "Monsieur Ridley, he acknowledges defeat. A man of passion, not malice. His escape, it is his penance." Hastings frowned. "You're letting him go, just like that? No chase, no police?" Poirot shook his head. "The police, they seek justice through chains. Poirot seeks truth through understanding. Ridley's confession, as flighted is enough. The treasure is safe, the Manor at peace. Justice is served, non?" He tucked the letter into his pocket, beside the silver key from the chapel. The key, etched with the owl crest, had been meant for a lock in the vault, perhaps a secondary compartment Ridley never reached. Its discovery was a quiet triumph, proof that no detail escaped Poirot's notice. He decided to leave it with Lord Ashford, a memento of the Manor's secrets, now fully unraveled. Lord Ashford emerged, his face lighter than it had been in days. "Monsieur Poirot, the museum has agreed to take the treasure. Dr. Hensley is thrilled. She's already planning her research. And Crane, he's agreed to settle his debts legally, thanks to your advice." Poirot bowed slightly. "It is my pleasure, Lord Ashford. The Manor, it is free of shadows now. Guard it well." Lady Eleanor joined them, her smile genuine for the first time. "Thank you, Monsieur Poirot. I feared the past would destroy us, but you've given us a future." Poirot inclined his head. "The past, madame, is a teacher, not a master. Live without fear." As the car arrived, Poirot and Hastings boarded, the Manor's turrets receding in the distance. In the quiet of the journey, Hastings chuckled. "You know, Poirot, this case had everything riddles, traps, a treasure. Like something out of a novel." Poirot's eyes twinkled. "A novel, Hastings?" "None. It is life, with all its complexities." The Phantom's riddles were a dance, and Hercule Poirot, he led the final step. He opened his notebook, its pages filled with meticulous notes on the case, the library cipher, the fountain's boxes, the maze's handkerchief, the chapel's key. Each clue had led to Ridley's unmasking, a testament to method and patience. Closing the notebook with a satisfied snap, Poirot leaned back, the silver key's weight a final note in his victory. The train to London rumbled through the countryside, and Poirot gazed out at the passing fields, his mind at ease. The Phantom's game was done, the treasure preserved, and the Crestwell-Ashford feud laid to rest. No further riddles beckoned, no shadows lingered. The case was complete, a perfect cadence to a masterful investigation. The chapter closed with Poirot smiling faintly. His hat tilted just so, as the train carried him toward new horizons. The Phantom's riddle was solved, and Hercule Poirot, the maestro of mysteries, was content, ready for whatever challenge awaited next.